Welcome to the Accelerate Podcast, a podcast for high-performing current and aspiring female founders and CEOs across Africa, and for those who also have a passion for Africa. This is the place to learn about the critical success factors and best practices of some of the most amazing high-performing female founders and CEOs, as we help you grow to be the best version of you, achieve time and financial freedom whilst living a significant life. Thanks for tuning in to listen. I'm your host, Nneka Nwobi. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my very first episode of an interview of a very special guest of Accelerate podcast. And I'm super, super excited to introduce to you an amazing lady, my sister, my friend of over 40 years, and one who really was instrumental to me creating Accelerate in the first place. And I'll tell you more about that later. Audrey Joe-Ezigbo is an entrepreneur par excellence. She's an author, she's a speaker, she's a blogger, she's a super business and life coach, a minister of the gospel, and many more. She's the co-founder and the deputy managing director of Falcon Corporation, a Nigerian indigenous conglomerate with interests in oil and gas, energy and infrastructure, real estate and agriculture. She's also the immediate past president of the Nigerian Gas Association, the first female to hold that position. She's a wife and a mother of 4 amazing, relatively young adults. She's widely read, holding 2 master's degrees and more. With all that said, and this introduction, Audrey, a warm welcome to my podcast, Accelerate.
My pleasure to be here, Nneka. Thank you.
All right, let's dive into our topic for today, the significance and opportunities at halftime. And you'll be wondering, halftime, why halftime? Audrey just turned 50. I also did a few months ago, and this is April of 2021. Audrey, how do you feel being 50?
Well, I tell you what, Nneka, I feel that I have finally come into myself. There is a sense of authority over my own life. There's a sense of, I've kind of always thought I knew myself, but honestly, as I turned 50, I recognized that I've entered a new dimension of self. And I'm just giving that expression. I'm embracing possibilities. I'm embracing newness and embracing the last 50 years, the good, the bad, everything is all come together nicely. And I'm really excited to be here.
How exciting. Well, happy birthday again. It's really a major milestone, right? And even leading up to that, and, even with all that you have achieved and all that, what's more? What more do you think about when you think of possibilities? I know that I should be asking this probably towards the end, but, let's just go with the flow.
Well, to be fair, you are right. It would ordinarily have been a question that tends to come towards the end, but I think it's actually a good time to be discussing that, because leading up to my 50th birthday, probably over the last 5 years thereabouts, I've found myself, just kind of feeling a bit unsettled, feeling like there was so much more I should be doing, and actually found myself many times saying to God, I'm not ungrateful. By which I mean, when I look at all He has helped me to be, do, and achieve, that sense of, there's so much more. If you don't understand it, it's almost like you're not grateful for what you have. But in coming into this space is me recognizing that it's really the other elements of who I am, the gifts, the talents, the abilities, the assignments that God has on my life, which is like the first half is just that preparation. It may seem like 50 years is a long time to be preparing, but I get it now that where I am is a season of my life where, yes, there's new businesses that still need to be birthed, but they're not being birthed just for the purpose of birthing businesses. They're being birthed from the impact perspective everything I'm doing, whether it's as a coach, as a mentor, as a philanthropist, whatever it is, those different elements of my life as a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, they still add up to something, and that is impact, touching the lives of other people, helping them to understand God in the truest sense of the word, and just really taking everything he has given me and doing my best with it for the sake of humanity and not for myself. And I think I've never really been that person just working for myself. But honestly, when you dimension it from the perspective of the significance conversation, not the success conversation, it's a good place to be. And that's exactly where I am right now.
Excellent. So I guess let's now go back, knowing kind of what that possibilities represents. What would you say from 0 to 50, or should I say now maybe from 12? Because probably at 5, even though you had some ideas, I know. What would you say are 3 key learnings from the challenges? Because obviously we learn from our challenges. You've experienced from, I'm going to still use 0 to 50, right? Because you are kind of like at halftime. If we're saying up to 100, right? Of course, if Jesus tarries and beyond that, but that. So what would you say have been 3 key learnings you have got from the challenges you've experienced up until now?
Okay, let me say the first one. The first one is about making room for family, for your children, for the failings of your spouse and your children, and indeed yourself. And I say this because I had a difficult family background. All right, there were challenges, and it was tough as a teenager into my early young adult years. But the lesson that I took from that, and they're different things, but they all add up to something: make room, learn to listen, be slow to judge. And from the point of view of my children, for instance, because I believe essentially one key thing I took out of that is that anything you go through, you do the world a disservice if you come back and repeat the same cycle of mistakes. And so even in the way that okay, so the second thing I'll talk about is in terms of my business, and that is just that learning from early stage mistakes that were made, many of which were quite expensive in the real sense of it, both from the financial perspective, the manpower perspective, and just the general learning curve of business. And so when I look back, I realized that I would have done better if I knew better, to have mentors in business, to read more widely, to understand my industry better, to connect with other entrepreneurs that were on the journey with myself, and just be a bit more robust in my thinking about how I was so close-knit about my business. It was just this thing we're doing, and that then didn't help. It's when things hit, we then having to scurry around and all that. So I think that's the one learning that I would have, if I had done that earlier, gotten into the networks, the associations, the governmental relationships, understood the regulatory space a bit better. It would have saved me a lot. And perhaps the last thing I would say, I mean, the 50 years, obviously so many things, but what comes readily to mind is from the personal point of view, I would have owned my gaps a lot earlier. I spent probably, and many of us do this, too much of my life doubting myself, not feeling I was competent, not putting myself up for bigger opportunities, not exploring a bit more. And then even when I didn't get things right, not forgiving myself early enough and moving on. So when you look back, you realize that all those things actually were building capacity, even through the struggles. And, it would have been easier to forgive yourself a lot earlier. But I'm in a good place when it comes to that right now. So
you are really taking it all up, all your lost time, right? You are embracing it fully.
Yeah.
So really, if I just go over what you just said, very powerful points, and it's amazing after just summarizing that into 3. This is now 5 decades of putting that together, making room for family, intentionally making room for that. I really like your second, and this is from over, I believe your business now over 27 years, right? Since you 27 years. And so the networks, right? And starting early. So if you had done that earlier, even though you're pretty networked, but you could have done even much more and leveraging on the networks. And then the third was really about really embracing yourself. How would you say that in like embracing yourself fully or stepping out more? What was that you
So it's really a combination of things, but I think it's embracing your gaps is
Yes,
what I
okay,
would
I
say.
like that. Embracing your
Embrace your
gaps.
gaps. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's on a learning curve. So we find ourselves intimidating ourselves by ourselves. And many times you constrain your possibilities, you constrain relationships that could have been value adding. You step away from great things that you could have done because you're second guessing yourself or thinking you still have so much to learn. But embracing your gaps means, okay, this is how far I've come. This is what I know. Let me go out there. What's the worst that can happen? I'll be wrong. Being wrong has never killed anyone.
No, it hasn't. In fact, you learn from it and do better even the next time than not doing at all. Okay, so halftime, we call it halftime because there's a book that you read. I've read that as well, but I know that it's been really, I think it brought at the right time or got into your space at the right time. And that's by Bob Buford, right? Halftime by Bob Buford. I know you've read all the other series or his other books, right? What does halftime mean to you in your top 5 roles as you, as Audrey Joe-Ezigbo, your family, your vocation, your networks and impact? Just one. What does it mean?
Oh my God. As me, at the risk of repeating myself, is owning myself, loving myself to the max. And I've never been that person who didn't love myself. But Neka, there is just, I don't have the words to describe this coming into my own that has happened as I've hit 50. It is understanding with greater clarity than ever before that I owe myself love, that I owe myself compassion, owning the fact that I'm an intelligent, beautiful, articulate woman, and it's not a brag, it's just what it is. I've done great things with my life, and it's not a brag, that's what it is. And, owning things I could have done that maybe I was too scared to do, recognizing that and just saying, okay, that's that, you didn't do them, so what next? Let's move on. It's just a great mental, emotional, psychological space to be in. And it's also recognizing for me, and still on the personal, that I can't afford to be complacent with my successes. It's recognizing that my world is changing. I'm going into the next half of my life. Technology is shifting. My physical health is shifting. So many things are changing around me. And I have to be fluid. I have to be dynamic, even in my relationships, embracing younger people a lot more, embracing tech more. And I'm pretty techy.
Yes,
but
you
I also
are.
like to embrace more
Super
of
tech.
that's right. I want to be relevant for decades to come in my spaces as God will take me into those, right? So it's a whole what I call my 360 overview of my life and understanding what is going to happen from there. The next thing you talked
Your
about
family.
was
So what does halftime mean to you and your family?
yeah, so halftime for me, my children, as you know, are by the end of this year, 3 would have graduated from the university. My last would then be going into the university. So it's a very different landscape in parenting. It's adult conversations. It's more patient. It's more open. It's almost more friendship than hardcore parenting in a sense. It's understanding that as I'm going into the phase where my son is literally around for a wedding right now. And by the time his friends start getting married, I think I should be preparing for grandma status,
That's
right? So
right. I mean, to start
that's
getting
right.
ready for that, believe it or not.
That's right. That's right. So, and that's a very different, it's a preparation for a very different kind of relationship because now you're going to have spouses of your children. And for, I don't know about anybody else, I intend to be a mother-in-law that my daughters-in-law would absolutely love. And then, of course, my one son-in-law will swear by me. So, preparing for that, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. And I know it's happening in this next season, right? As a business person, I think you mentioned business. Yeah.
Yes, so your
Is also
vocation.
there
Yes, so
me
that's your business. Your
understanding
vocation.
because it is
Yes.
a desire of my heart. Right. Right. So my business, I do want to be able to exit my business in the next few years in a formal, everyday sense of it. So that's my dream is just to have that broad oversight. I'm in there once in a while, maybe at the board level, And all the structure I've been building up all these years, I want to be able to hand that formally over to other people to run and give myself room to then go more into my other life expressions from coaching and ministry and teaching and speaking and all that. Those are the things that, give me more joy at this point in time. But I also see, particularly because I'm in the energy space, I also see that we are literally in an energy transition conversation right now. So even from a business point of view, I'm interested in looking at what are the opportunities for me to get into that green energy conversation from a business point of view.
And in Africa, there are not many women. You being the first in the Nigerian gas industry. So you're looking at extending beyond Nigeria to Africa and the rest of the world, right? I'm playing a space in that.
Certainly. It's about the narrative of energy on the continent, certainly. And, I have shared this with you at some point that even though I've handed over to my successor as the president of NGA, I'm still a coal gas expert. I'm still very passionate about the energy space. So certainly I'm not disappearing from that landscape anytime soon.
Yeah, no, with all that you've acquired, definitely the experience that you have, I'm sure, companies and your different stakeholders and your tribe will definitely want to learn more from you around that. What of your networks? Because that's obviously important and interesting. You talked about that being a key learning for you. What does that mean? What would that mean? What does that look like at halftime for you? That's the fourth.
I believe that, when you think about halftime, it is recognizing that you're networking, you're networking up and down, the bottom up and top down. Let me put it like that. Okay. So you're literally now the person that people are trying to get to. And that's the reality by the prime position that we occupy in our industries, in our businesses and all that. So we are now those people we once looked up to. And so recognizing that in this season, there's an imperative to be open, to be accessible, to have a firm kind of structure whereby you also are not overstretching yourself in the process of being available. To think about how to create platforms that those who are trying to network bottom up to where you are able to still tap of your wealth of knowledge and connections without being a drain on you, because it can be a lot. At the same time, you also recognize that you have those who have gone ahead that remain relevant in a more strategic way, especially, for instance, in your industry, or for those of us like myself who have governmental aspirations. You're still going to need those champions. You're still going to need those sponsors, but you're now approaching them with a more mature viewpoint, a more concise set of objectives in terms of where you're going and how they play a role. And I think it's also a good time to kind of streamline your network and figure who are those who are really important to me, and then who are those that I really need to be adding value to, because it's a two-way thing. So it's not just a case of network. No, it's very strategic, it's very crisp. There are some relationships you're going to let go of, but there are some that you're going to intentionally cultivate because they add value to you and you add value right back to them. And this is whether it is top down or bottom up.
Right.
So it's just a great change. I think I can't say it enough. Great place to be, Neka.
Yeah, no, I can sense the energy. Even looking at you, it's like, whoa, okay. The energy that is just, you are emanating. I wish you could see that here. I know our listeners kind of can't see that, but yes, I definitely feel that. Now, what of at your level? What of those networks and relations? So you've talked about the top up. Yes. Top down and then bottom down. I'm like, no, top up doesn't sound right. Yeah. And then what of at your level? So that kind of peer networks. Can you speak into that?
Well, that is actually critical, Nick. And I realized that because much as you feel you're on the same journey as many people that seem to be your contemporaries, whether by age or by position across their industries and organizations. But actually, there are so many people who haven't yet come into this place. All right. So even though they're 50, some of them are 55, they're still in the place of struggling to understand the transition that is happening or needs to happen in their lives. And so that's also critical, making yourself available to help people journey into this place of comfort and ownership of self. At the same time, too, like I said, we are now the people that everyone is trying to assess. So being able to be bridge builders more so than ever before, especially I think as women, being able to be bridge builders whereby if someone at my level needs something, it takes me a couple of calls and I've sorted it out, right? I think that's very critical. Championing each other as well, looking out for how when those, it could be a position in the government or something, and we rally around, because we know that this person is competent, this person is capable. It's just that hand holding that is happening at our level as contemporaries at the same time. So I think that for me is the outlook that I have in terms of those who are at my level, that some of them are not quite there mentally, emotionally, psychologically, even though they may appear to be positionally. And I have a role to play there. And then again, like I said, hand holding.
Yeah,
Just
I
to
mean,
make
and
sure
I
that
must say, you definitely had a big role to play in what Accelerate is all about, right? As a coach was like, look, Neka, you started, you get this network, so I must say thank you, for Accelerate Mastermind Group, which is kind of that high performing female founders, CEOs at that level, being accountable to each other, learning from each other, brainstorming, plus also having some rest and relaxation, right? And exploring the world and having also a good time. So thank you, Audrey, coach, inspirer, encourager, and all that. You played a huge role in that. Thank you. Okay, so moving to now your different expressions now from now post halftime as we get into it. Can you shed some light to the listeners? What do they look like? And also perhaps how they can reach you, your different platforms and all that. What are those components of that?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I am in this season, like I've talked about the business already, I won't repeat that, looking at those new opportunities. But also, like I said, it's a conversation about impact, about significance around sustainability. And so I'm doing different things. So I'm currently doing a total revamping of my, for lack of a better word, that's the word that the society understands now, my brand, so to speak. Okay. And this is from the point of view of being able to showcase more distinctly the value that I carry and I want to share. So on my platforms, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, so that is all going to be shifting. I'm going into.
But the name is still the same, right? Audrey Joe.
The name is still the same.
Okay, at Audrey Joe-Ezigbo.
Audrey Joe-Ezigbo, all my platforms at Audrey Joe-Ezigbo, actually.
Okay, Audrey J, yes, Audrey Joe-Ezigbo.
Okay, so I'm going to be doing more teaching. I have my short videos and things that I'm going to be doing, sharing nuggets of information based on my wealth of experience, first as a business person, but secondly also I've worked with my husband for 27 years and been able to build a successful, happy marriage and a great company that is, it's an institution we've built. And so being able to take the kinds of principles and practices that have allowed us to win on both fronts and share them with other couple entrepreneurs, I think that's a huge assignment and ministry that I'm best placed to be able to do. And so that's part of what I'm going to be doing. Of course, is more formalized. So it's all going to be, I have a platform, the Double Impact platform, and the website is also there, the doubleimpactplatform.com. But I'm going to also be infusing a lot of that in my personal pages. So even in the conversations on the Audrey Joe-Ezigbo platforms, you will get, references to those links, or I host some of them directly. So it's bringing it all together, actually. And then I'm going to be doing a lot of work with women in energy. So that's one of the areas that I'm also focused on, being able to create that value in terms of their visibility, their impact, how they can position to take territory within the energy space, within Nigeria, and of course, across Africa. I'm going to be doing a lot more coaching, mentoring, because I see that that's a much needed, it is a great need at this point in time, both from an executive and life point of view. So it's just a lot of things, Neka. And of course, yes, because I'm also important in this equation, I'm going to be traveling a lot,
Yes.
big time,
absolutely. And we're planning for lots of that too, and explore the world. And that's actually leading to my next question, right? A lot's going on. How do you unwind? How do you unwind?
How do I unwind?
Yes.
One is I have what I call my do absolutely nothing days.
And that's very important. Do nothing.
So important. Do nothing. And actually, I qualify do absolutely nothing. So I'm binge watching Netflix, or like I laugh and say, sometimes Netflix is watching me because I'm not really paying attention. And then it could be reading a book. Sometimes I just play worship music and I'm lying down. I love Sudoku. I can spend hours doing Sudoku.
I need to get that. I used to do that before. Thanks for the reminder on that.
Oh, yeah, I love Sudoku.
Yeah, okay.
I have hard copy Sudoku. I have it on all my devices. And I love Candy Crush. Go figure. I love Candy Crush.
Okay.
So, on some days it's just calm, it's just relaxing, it's nothing specific. But I also like to do things like hang out with my girls, and you should know that, Nneka, because one of them.
Hanging out.
We talk, we laugh, we cry, we pray together. It's very enriching, it's uplifting. And I like to do karaoke. I love to sing. So when I have the opportunity, I do karaoke, and it's just nice. I think those are the main things for me. I don't have any hardcore relaxation techniques. Once in a while, I go to the spa. More often than not these days, I bring the spa to me because there's people doing home services, right? And that's about it.
No,
but I do know how to relax.
Yeah.
Actually, when you hear my schedule, you think she never has time for herself. That's not true. Actually, intentionally, sometimes I just say to my husband, I'm done with work this week, and next 2 days I'm staying home to do whatever,
To do absolutely nothing, and that's okay, and you feel okay with that.
Yeah, but I think this is also important, and maybe this is the last thing I'll say. This is the importance also for business people to build structure and to hire competent people and then build capacity, because that then allows you to step away from the business for periods of time and know that things are still happening without it necessarily being all about you, right? And then that's the difference between having a business and having a job.
Yes.
If you have to be there every second, that's a job, right? But if you build this system around you, it's quite easy to decide, you know what, I need to relax.
Yes, I would say that's actually one of the critical success factors of a high-performing female founder. So I've got one there now. So rule number one, build structures and not a job. Okay, as we begin to round down, what 3 books have impacted you the most in the last 12 months? Of course, we've gone some hibernation because of all that has transpired around the world. What 3 books would you say has been, oh man, this has been really good?
Okay, so obviously, first thing is Bob Buford.
Yes, we say that. Thank you, Bob Buford.
So I have Bob Buford's Halftime, I have Beyond Halftime, I have Stuck in Halftime,
oh, wow.
And I have Game Plan.
You see, so that's the thing with you now. I do have halftime, but you now, you will just carry everything. You have passed us now with all the books. You will now be telling us about that.
Yes. Now, the other 2 books, oh, Nneka, I'm so sorry. I should have checked before this podcast, but I remember the titles. I just don't remember the authors. One of them is called Clout.
Clout, C-L.
C-L-O-U-T. Something about unleashing your God-given influence.
No, that's fine. We're going to get it, and we're going to post it on the show notes on the site. So we'll get the author. So Clout, that's number 2. I haven't read that.
That's one. I also like, this is called The Founder's Dilemma. It's called The Founder's Dilemma, and I can't remember the author, but I thought it was a very powerful book because essentially it was looking at end to end the mindsets of different founders, and it asked one big question: do you want to be rich or do you want to be king? And it talked about how if you want to be king, those who are trying to micromanage, control the business, keep it all about them, and the business doesn't tend to grow. But those who want to be king are those who are building institutions, the kinds of decisions they're taking, because one day they want to sell the business to institutional investors, take their money and go start something else. And I think that for me, that attracted me to that book, because really it's essentially, I want to be rich. I don't want to be king. I want to just keep building wealth for generations. All right. So I'm not tied to it's my company, I own it and all that. That's always been the philosophy. But I thought that from a principle point of view, it was a powerful book, and I'm just sorry I didn't check.
No, that's fine. We'll get that, and viewers, you can look at the show notes and get more details about that. Audrey, I would like to thank you so much for this time. It's been fun, it's been insightful, it's been exciting. We tried to connect several times, and I'm happy we did. This has been really, really interesting, very insightful. Any final thoughts?
Thanks, Nneka. Well, I would leave the listener with this. You have the capacity to be so much more, to do so much more. You just have to believe in yourself and find someone that will partner with you for accountability's sake, but also champion your dreams. And if you're a business person, I just encourage you to step into that arena from the next day, your next working day, and begin to look at your environment and think, what do I need to do to depersonalize my business and move it onto that institutional framework that tends to build businesses that last beyond your current generation and into the many, many years to come. That for me is the true essence of legacy and why we do the things that we do. Thanks for having me, Nneka. It's been great talking with you today.
This concludes this episode of Accelerate. Make sure to show Audrey some love on her website and her social media platforms, where you can learn all about her initiatives. All the information links will be down in the show notes. If you have not done so already, hit that subscribe button on your podcast player of choice on Apple. This will make sure you don't miss any of the amazing content we have lined up and rolling out for you. If you love this episode, it will mean a lot if you would leave a 5-star rating and a written review on Apple Podcasts. Finally, if you haven't connected with me over on Instagram and you're interested in learning more about similar episodes and all that's happening before they even get announced publicly, let's make sure to connect over there at Accelerate or Nneka Nwobi on Instagram. But with all that said, I appreciate you being here. I look forward to connecting with you over on Instagram. And until I see you in the next episode, endeavor to grow, profit, and make an impact.